Happy New Year. I'm going to keep saying that because it's still January and today feels like a new day and feels like a new year. So we're exceptionally excited to be here and want to thank Dan and Jasmine and the Packard Place event team for inviting us. We have an exciting series of events coming up. Some of you, if you've been around the innovation scene for any period of time, you may be familiar with the Seed 20 program. It's a program, it's a signature program of Social Venture Partners, which is the nonprofit organization that I am the executive director for. And we've been hosting an innovation competition for nonprofit organizations with new or emerging ideas or new and emerging programs. And that program's been in existence now for over 9 years, and we've helped more than 180 innovative social entrepreneurs tell their story and build excitement and gain exposure for the social issues that they're attacking here in our city. But with the pandemic, things aren't always what we want them to be. So we decided to do something a little bit different. And so this year we're going to be alumni, and we're going to be giving those that have come through the program an opportunity to tell their story in greater detail. So we've chosen 9 organizations out of the more than 180 who've come through the program to be part of our live events. And the first live event is coming up on February the 4th. These are free virtual events. You'll get the chance to see the new premieres of their videos. Typically, our program is a pitch competition where they get 3 minutes to tell their story and make their appeal to win prize money. This year, we've chosen collaboration over competition, and we're going to be diving deep and giving you an opportunity to interact with some of our alumni. So we hope that you will head over to seed20.org. That's our website for the event, and register. There's 3 events that we're doing, 3 on 3 different nights. One in February, on February 4th, March the 11th, and then again our final one on April 22nd. And we would love to have you join us to be inspired and to hear about the innovative and good work that's happening here in our community.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Kristin. If you want to just go ahead and get started with the panel discussion. I know we're running a little bit ahead of schedule, but I think that works out perfectly.
Okay.
Q&A segment. So kick it
Absolutely.
off to the panelists and yeah, have a great discussion.
Great, thanks. Well, I'll ask Patti Weber, who is the CEO of Croixstone Consulting, to join us. She's also a social venture partner. And Eric Gorman, who is the owner of Wily, a design thinking firm here in Charlotte, and also a social venture partner, to join us. So we're really grateful, as I mentioned, to have this opportunity tonight to be here and chat a little bit about how we at Social Venture Partners are uniquely serving our community. But before we dive in, I want to give Patti an opportunity to tell us a little bit about herself and her company.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. So I know a lot of you don't actually know me, but most people, when they first meet me, kind of see me as more of a quieter person. But don't let that quiet demeanor throw you, because I'm an extremely competitive person and very driven. And I've got that never give up attitude that has proven to be a great asset to me as an entrepreneur. So I'm going to take you back a little bit. I know this is way back before Croixstone started, but it really kind of shares a little bit about who I am. I grew up as one of 5 kids in northern Wisconsin, surrounded in a neighborhood with pretty much all boys. So I learned to be very scrappy at an early age and had to figure things out and never give up. So you had to stand up for yourself type of situation. So fortunately, also, I really love to figure things out. I wasn't someone that loved playing with dolls. I was more of those ones that, figure some put a pine wood derby card together or whatever it may be. That's the type of person. And I was fortunate to have a dad who fostered that interest in the STEM field, and also taught me that whatever my brothers could do, I could do just as well, if not better. So that really led me to pursue opportunities that would historically be in a male-dominated world. So including when I went to college, I went to the University of Wisconsin and started with a degree in chemical engineering. I'd be in my lecture halls with pretty much, I'd be the sole woman in that classroom and 500 guys. So I didn't mind standing out and being different. It was actually something that, made me feel comfortable, and I was very confident in my abilities. At the same time, I was a collegiate athlete. So I swam for University of Wisconsin, go Badgers. So always competitive. Eventually decided, I wasn't meant to sit in a lab. That's just not me. I might be quiet, but I had a lot of things to say. So it led me to a career initially as a math and computer science teacher. Again, keeping in mind, I'm much older than probably a lot of people in the audience. I have lots of gray hair underneath here. And shared my passion for the STEM field with the young individuals at the same time as coaching swim teams. And then eventually led me into the technology world. And, I was involved in big data before big data had its name. And eventually started working for Accenture and got into the consulting world. At the same time, my husband and I have celebrated 30 years together, and we both have that crazy gene that we're risk takers. He's more a risk taker than I am, but he's also got the serial entrepreneurial spirit. And together, eventually, we decided to put both of us in the same boat and started Croixstone Consulting, really to address the needs of companies out here who are looking for innovative ideas as well as problem solvers. So we are a boutique management consulting firm, and we work across all industries as well as functional areas in organizations. So that's a little bit about me, more than you probably wanted to know, but it gives you a background of where I come from.
Awesome. Well, we're delighted to have you, and we're so fortunate to have you as part of the Social Venture Partners organization. Eric, you want to share a little bit about your career progression?
Yeah, first I'll share just a quick side story. My wife's a nuclear engineer. She's also on the board of Social Venture Partners. And so, girl power, especially on this day of all days with the inauguration of the first, female VP. So pretty special. So I was building Legos and playing pickup games, all myriad sports when I was growing up. So that's, I guess, the Lego builder in me. Fast forward to the prototype builder and designer in me now. I guess you could draw a straight line there. But yeah, I think, going back in my early career, I actually started out as an urban planner, working with a lot of civil engineers in the transportation industry, working on big, sexy projects like high-speed rail and not so sexy projects like local roadway widenings and everything you can imagine in between. And so I kind of picked up this design thinking, innovation type of tools and methodology early, and kind of going early in college, really. And it kind of bit me and wouldn't let go. So eventually I acquiesced, and several years into that career in the engineering space, I left and started working with some folks in the innovation space. And so kind of cut my teeth working with some pretty awesome firms, both locally and nationally and internationally. And through a series of learnings and failings, and we could talk all about that, as well as just dumb luck, I ended up having the opportunity to kind of, and plus with my better half's support and blessing, was able to take the leap and really start my own firm. So I office at Camp North End, a really amazing hub for innovation. I'm sure a lot of folks on the call have been out there. It's an amazing space. It's a privilege. I'm privileged to be out there. And so, yeah, we really specialize in helping teams work collaboratively through tough challenges. We do work with some startups in the medtech space, especially, and others, and big companies, government teams, but we really do specialize in helping teams solve big problems. We run sprints, which are fast-paced workshops with multidisciplinary teams, and really kind of help people get unstuck. And so, yeah, it's a privilege to be here. I'm really excited about this topic. I'm very passionate about this, and I know we're going to dive in here and talk a lot about social philanthropy. So I'll kick it back to Kristin.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, both of you. And we're going to talk a lot more about how your career progression and your skills, your career skills that you use on your day job, how that you've been using that to serve our community. Just a little bit of snippet for me. I've been with Social Venture Partners as the executive director. We've been in existence here in Charlotte since 2005. And I joined the organization about 16 months ago when our longtime executive director retired. Prior to joining the nonprofit world, I spent the better part of 20 years working for large financial organizations, some that you might recognize here in town, Bank of America, Capital One, before anybody knew who Capital One was or what was in your wallet, and GE. And so I had a variety of background in operations. Thank goodness I'm not in operations in the midst of this pandemic. Shout out to all of those who are keeping the world running, as well as supplier management, relationship management, and rose up through the ranks. But there was a rumbling in my spirit that I needed to explore something more. And I've always had a heart and passion for serving the community. And so when this opportunity came up to explore venture philanthropy, first of all, I didn't know what it was. And second of all, I was blessed to have some exposure to some partners who then made me aware of this organization. And so I think it is the best kept secret in town. I'm obviously very biased. But I know we're here tonight to talk about that term, venture philanthropy. And so I just want to take a chance. It's kind of an ominous term, and people may have not heard of it before. And so I just want to share with you how Social Venture Partners Charlotte really defines it. It's a way of using our skills, and that where it's a model of giving, really, where we're collaborating and our partners make an annual contribution whereby their funds are pooled, and we're making a strategic investment in several nonprofits, but not just making an investment as in a grant or funding where we write the check and we walk away. We roll up our sleeves and we collectively invest our history, our experience, our expertise, our networks, our social capital, as a way of attacking social and economic inequality. So at Social Venture Partners, our mission really is to attack social and economic inequality here, upward mobility, and invest in some of the brightest ideas and organizations that are rising around the city to tackle those issues. So I'm really curious, Patti, we'll start with you. Tell us more about what that term venture philanthropy means to you and what drew you to this model of giving and community support.
Well, I'm happy to do that. Obviously, with my background, both in consulting and in the education arena, I've always been very passionate about helping to give back and share my knowledge and be a problem solver. So before getting introduced to Social Venture Partners, I did like a lot of people did. I got involved in, a nonprofit here, so forth and so on. Packaged meals. I ended up running 5K events and was a team's ambassador and coordinated all these different things, but I didn't really I was just like doing these one-off things. Although they had a lot of impact, I was, was not feeling necessarily as part of a team as much, and I knew that I could do a lot more. And when I was introduced to Social Venture Partners, here was an opportunity not just to write a check or to pack packages or coordinate a 5K run or something, but to do something even more. So right away, I love the opportunity to get involved in organization at that strategic level and be able to put all the knowledge that I had gained over the years, not only, in my current role as CEO of Croixstone Consulting and starting up this organization that's now 5 years old, but also all the other things in play, and to be able to, my technology background and so forth, to help nonprofits and others really drive changes here in our community. So it was an opportunity to amplify my voice, to really work with other people who are very passionate about helping Charlotte, who has been Charlotte has been my community for the last 20 plus years. And I really wanted to do more than just one-off. So for me, Social Venture Partners allows me not only to donate the money and and my time, but to be able to partner those and have a say as to how my money is being used to help my community.
Awesome. Eric, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, for me, it was really personal. When I was working in the engineering firm, I really had not found a place where I could really align my passion, purpose, and paycheck. And so I've been really blessed and fortunate to have that through Wily, my company. But looking back, I was really starving for purpose, more meaningful work. And, really, I had been growing up, my mom was very religious, and so we attended a church, and I did a lot of giving to the community in that capacity. But really, going through college and focusing really my career, I really had not put much effort, honestly, into the social space. But it was still very much pulling at my heartstrings, and I was starting to put out feelers and do some hard looking around to see what I could find. Fortunately for me, Social Venture Partners Charlotte kind of found me. They had this awesome segment on NPR, some bit of an NPR nerd, guilty as charged. And I saw this amazing segment about, the C20 program that Kristin was plugging earlier in opening the top of the session. And so I, convinced my wife, hey, we should go check this out. So we did. And I was just floored by the incredible social innovations and the amazing people and organizations that were happening all over across our community that I had no awareness of. And so shame on me for not knowing that. But at the same time, even those that are firmly entrenched in the social space and doing the good work day to day and even running organizations, oftentimes aren't aware or don't have time to come up for air to see what the landscape's really like. And so for me, C20 was just this amazing aha. And it really just sparked a lot of passion in me to help. And then beyond that, I mentioned in the opening that, the kind of innovation bug bit me, which is really, for me, just solving big problems, right? And coming up with smart ways to do so. And here I saw Social Venture Partners Charlotte applying what I thought was a pretty innovative model. Turns out I still believe that is the case, that it's a very innovative model to tackling these big social challenges. And oh, by the way, not only could I have a creative outlet to get involved, or not a creative outlet, but just an outlet to get involved, but I could actually apply my greatest skills and talents to those big challenges. So, thinking as an entrepreneur, all the myriad challenges we have to face on our business. So I'm a consultant, so we have to solve challenges for our clients. All that skill and knowledge is absolutely transferable to the social space. I know we'll probably talk more about that a little bit, not to steal the thunder, but I think, for me, it's just been an amazing opportunity to have purpose and meaning, get connected with really amazing people, and then, just have such a sense of just purpose and meaning, knowing that I'm helping some of the most innovative entrepreneurial people on the planet that are right here, happen to be right here in our community underneath my very nose.
Yeah, can you take us, it's a perfect demonstration. Can you just dive a little deeper into some of those tactical skills that you as an entrepreneur, you as a new business owner, how are some of those skills that you use every day to start your business and maybe navigate the growth of your business? How do you see that need in the social sector, and how do you find ways to share that with other nonprofit leaders?
Yeah, I think, just like many probably folks on the call, whether you're an entrepreneur in a big corporate, or you're an entrepreneur with your own business, or a social innovator, a social entrepreneur, regardless, you're probably going to be solving challenges, and I'm the same way, right? So we're constantly trying to figure out ways to change behavior, get people on board and aligned. It just so happens that, professionally, what we do as a business is facilitate workshops. So we're constantly helping teams work collaboratively, and through a series of activities we've designed and facilitate in real time using, collaborative tools, now virtual, because we are all virtual right now. We really do help people unlock challenges. And so that skill set that I've honed as a facilitator, as someone who designs experiences, as someone who helps even in some cases, like we did with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library with their mobile library, we helped kind of prototype and test that experience with community stakeholders. So in a way that all those skills have been transferable. I know we've done a workshop with SVP, and actually multiple over the past few years. And then we've done, I think, a number of workshops also in the community. I know William McNeely, give a shout out to William. He's on the call. We've done a workshop for Do Greater Foundation. So anyway, so that kind of is a bit of unique, but even just broader to your point about, trying to grow the business. Every organization is trying to grow and get the word out and figure out how do we become more sustainable and maybe even dip our toes into revenue streams beyond just donor based. And so that's obviously very transferable for a lot of entrepreneurs that might be on this call. And so, a lot of those skill sets, whether you're just trying to help people or get people aligned or actually do strategy, help grow the business, whether you're in marketing or sales, customer facing, even technology, everyone's digital. Everyone has a lot of organizations do have a strong digital component and rely on technology to offer their services. So really there's just like any organization, there is some way for you to get it plugged in and really, put your best and highest uses to really good work for some awesome organizations.
Yeah, we've certainly seen that it's, even though it's not for profit, is still a business, right?
Oh, yeah.
And those challenges, those HR challenges, those communication challenges, those revenue growth challenges are still there, just for a different end. Patti, what about you? Which entrepreneurial skills or business skills have you found most applicable, or that you're calling upon the most when you serve in the community?
It's everything I've learned through the years. It's how to solve problems, how to tackle and pivot as needed. I mean, we all learned that this past year if we didn't know it before. But what I love and what I've learned, within my own organization, I wear, the CFO hat one day, and helping to put together budgets. Most nonprofits start out with a fabulous idea. They have a great innovative idea. But they don't necessarily, not all nonprofit individuals have the know-how to run and scale a business. And I, fortunately, I know how to do that. So I'm able to pass along the knowledges, the hurdles I've had to hop over. I mean, I've helped nonprofits when they've said, hey, I'm at this point where I now have employees. How do I offer my employees benefits? And I'm able to tap into what I've learned because it's something that I tackled with, right away, knew that was going to be part of what I needed to do for my highly skilled consultants to offer a very robust set of benefits. So I've helped a lot of different nonprofits say, okay, here's resources you can go to. Here's what you need to keep in mind. Or helped in using my technology background. I've worked with a number of nonprofits, figuring out what technology solution is going to be most effective and cost efficient for them. And sometimes they've gotten a grant or whatever, and they think they have to build something from scratch, and letting them know there's stuff that's out there for you that you can tap into. I was pulled in to help one organization who fortunately had this great grant, lots of money to be able to spend. And I'm like, don't build. There's so much on the market. Let me help you identify a source. Or even just moving into, and connecting people with lawyers that they need to talk to get, address those things. Or how do you onboard employees? What do you need to know about risk and putting in controls and all that other stuff? All the things we do for our for-profit world, and all the things I've had to tackle as a business owner, I can pass that knowledge along. So that those people that have those great ideas can focus on their ideas, and we help them put together the structure to allow that nonprofit to be sustainable and to be able to market themselves, as well as to be able to scale and address more and more of the needs within our community. So that's I've kind of pulled on everything that I've learned over the years, from even my childhood.
Yeah.
For me, education was my key of getting out of a very small town in northern Wisconsin and bringing me to working for large, global consulting firms, and then starting on my own. So, if I can pass that knowledge along to other organizations, that's my role.
Yeah, you touched on something that, sharing those experiences and those tactical expertise is invaluable. The other piece that you mentioned was the connections, right? And the helping nonprofits. You may not necessarily have tons and tons of money to invest, but one of the things that I know we were all talking about, and you alluded to it in your answer, was this notion of your network and the concept of social capital. And so one of the things that we have experienced, I know both of you have different experiences, but can you share maybe a little? Patty's given an example. Eric, can you give an example of how, social capital, what role that is playing and what role you think that plays in our social sector and helping address big, complex community problems?
Yeah, I'll touch on it briefly. I think we are seeing kind of a starvation and a vacuum of social capital right now in a lot of ways, with a lot of the social inequities we're facing and a number of the challenges we're facing as a nation. And so, yeah, I think social capital is definitely critical. And I think what SVP does a really great job at is building that social capital and strengthening those ties. I think, like I mentioned earlier, they're just amazing organizations that are doing such needed work. And at least for me, and if I were not plugged into social venture partners and attending C20 every year, I would be much more unaware. And so for me, I know personally, it's built a lot of social capital within, just between, because what it comes down to really is relationships, right? It's building relationships and being able to empathize with someone else, building trust with that person, but at scale across a entire community. And so that's what we're really talking about. And I think that is something that I know I found to be true and to be really fostered very intentionally at SVP. And I think that's just something that's going to be very, very critical as we try to, heal, and in addition to that, do all the other things that we're typically tasked with in a day, and helping all the myriad organizations that we all help. And so, yeah, it's just like we all kind of have to pony up and just drive even harder. But yeah, I think it is the backbone, and without it, I think something that we take for granted. I think this COVID and this world has really exposed that we're living in right now, has exposed a lot of things we take for granted. And I think that's one of them that we can't take our eye off of, because without it, I think our ability to solve really complex challenges is going to be just near impossible.
Absolutely. Well, Patti, how have you, you mentioned connecting lawyers and very specific resources, but what are some of your best practices that you share? So it's the old adage of you can give a man a fish or you can teach them to fish, right? And so in many cases, I know that you have those fish and you're happy to share them, but tell me how you as an entrepreneur help others learn how to build out their social capital.
First of all, I'm always happy to mentor and share my experiences with other people, whether that's within the nonprofit world or otherwise. When we were talking about social capital, I was thinking about what LinkedIn had put in play maybe about, during COVID or maybe before COVID, where it was, would you accept a link from someone you don't know to be able to help them along the pathway? I mean, I've got two one recently college graduate. My daughter just graduated and just started her first post-college job in December, and I've got a son at Georgia Tech. And so I'm always happy to be able to help share my knowledge and resources with people, whether it's in the nonprofit world or it's young professionals that are starting out who, especially people like myself who are, have backgrounds in the technology world. We stand out because there's so few of us. We're celebrating the fact, and we don't see everyone else. Everyone else in the room looks different than us because most of the time they're males. And so we need to help each other along. So from a social capital perspective, not only has social venture partners allow me to increase my own social capital because of the members of the partnership. I have met fabulous individuals who are willing. I mean, that was honestly the first time my husband and I got involved in the first meeting with social venture partners. I was like, these are just great people. I mean, they are very, a lot of them are respected individuals in the community. They have reached high levels in their careers and so forth, but they're willing to lend a hand to anyone to pull them up. This is not a competition. Together, we can do so much more than individually. So sharing my social capital is extremely important, whether it's for-profit or non-for-profit. My business is all about relationships, sharing my social capital with other people. And so if I can open a door for an organization and make a connection that allows them to find a technology solution or meet a lawyer or find new space to have their nonprofit sit in, or introduce them to someone that can do, like I said before, benefits for that organization, I'm all for it, because that doesn't cost me anything. And it's such an asset to these people, and something they, a lot of individuals just don't have that connection. I can pick up a phone and probably find you someone. I've got a nonprofit that is looking for someone to help take over their social media. Fine, I'll pick up a phone and give a couple phone calls, and I probably can find someone that can do that for you. It takes 5 minutes of my time, but it could make all the difference for that organization in their success. So that's one of the things I just love about social venture partners. It's opened my eyes at how easy it is to give back and make a significant difference. And very oftentimes it's a very strategic level, because I'm having those conversations that I probably, if I was just a volunteer, I probably wouldn't have had those same conversations. I mean, I've set up, donor systems for people. I've done all sorts of stuff that people wouldn't have asked me for prior to my involvement with social venture.
Yeah. And I think when I talk to our partners and when we talk to our nonprofit partners, right, is in the entrepreneurial world, you have mentors. And not to say that the nonprofits, they do, but it's so nice to we all have those people around us that we call upon to bounce ideas, right? That we just say, help me, I need an outside perspective. I need a fresh perspective. And when we think about the large, complicated, complex, and in many cases, deeply rooted biases and things that we're seeing in the social sector, it's a complicated problem that, also requires a lot of coordination and a lot of different diverse perspectives. So what role, Eric, do you see venture philanthropy playing in some of those big, the social sector faces challenges that for-profit sector doesn't change. How do you see venture philanthropy assisting in that solution?
Yeah, and I can attest, personally to the complexity. We, like I mentioned earlier, we work with, Fortune 500 companies, unicorn companies, startups, as well as government teams, and those in the social sector. And of all the problems that we typically work with, the social sector tend to be the most gnarliest, if I can, use that term. I think they are just big, hairy problems, because I think if you really unpack it, typically you have multiple layers of customers. You have the external stakeholders and funders, you have board members, you have volunteers, and then of course the people that you're trying to serve, which oftentimes are myriad types of customers right there alone, often serving many people, different types of people. So it's a lot of different humans involved and a lot of different unique challenges, and it's a challenge just to manage volunteers. Like, that's a whole big hairy problem right there, and that's just one subset. So I can attest to how difficult it is. But I think, to your question, I think for complex problems, we need complex, not complicated, but complex systems to be able to tackle those problems. And I do believe that this model, we need all the tools in the toolkit. We need all the different tools, and we need to be able to discern between them and apply them at the right moment and for what type of challenge. But I do think for those big, gnarly challenges that oftentimes really cripple and hold back a lot of social innovators. The venture philanthropy model is a really powerful and can be a very effective tool, again, when applied appropriately. Because again, when you have lots of different actors involved and you have really tough social challenges and you're trying to put a dent and also, by the way, measure that impact, it's not like you can measure with a dollar, right? If you're an entrepreneur, the greatest feedback you can get is is your customer buying or not, right?
Right.
You can't really hide behind that. But on the flip side, or looking at the social sector, it can be pretty murky. Like, what impact are we truly having in this space? Are we moving the needle in the right direction for this really important underserved community that we're trying to serve? So all those challenges are really tough. And I think the social venture model really can step up to those big challenges. And I've certainly seen it come and be applied to those big challenges where you're really mobilizing a team of highly skilled, diverse people to really assess and then help people get unstuck in some of these organizations that SVP is helping in particular, since that's kind of the thing that I'm closest to in the social space.
Well, and there's nothing quite like sitting across the table from a group of nonprofit staff members or board members and seeing those light bulbs go off, right? Just because you asked a question that you thought was very apparent or very obvious, right? And they had never thought of that question. They'd never contemplated that concept. So I appreciate both of you sharing our experience. We want to give the folks, we could talk about this for days, but we would love to hear some of the questions from the audience. So we're gonna open it up for Q&A. Please feel free to, I think, Jasmine, can folks just ask their question, or do they need to drop their questions in the chat in the Q&A?
Ask their questions on the in the chat.
All right, so if you have any questions for us, while we're waiting for our first question to come in, I will just highlight that this model of giving, Charlotte is one of 43 cities in 8 countries around the world that is part of the Social Venture Partners International organization. We are locally our own 501c3. And we have about 100 partners right now. And we've just celebrated our 15th anniversary in 2020. It was quite a year. We've invested more than $1.5 million in 20 strategic nonprofit organizations since our existence. And through the Seed 20 program, we've made possible more than $500,000 of prize money, of additional donations and things of that nature. So we know it's important to track your investments and the types of things, the dollars where they're going. One of the questions that's come in is can you tell us about some of the nonprofits that SVP has helped and how? Great question. So the list is long and distinguished. For those of you who have children, you might be aware of Heart Math Tutoring. That organization was actually founded in collaboration with some partners from Social Venture Partners and a collaboration with Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools and Communities in Schools. And so the very creation of this idea and notion was generated in collaboration, and that organization is going strong 8 years and has rolled off into its own, its very own nonprofit. So that's just one. Our current portfolio consists of a number of organizations you might be aware of. Gen 1 Charlotte, which is a first generation college program for college students, high gifted students from Title I schools to help them get to and through school. Another organization that many people might be familiar with is Our Bridge for Kids. And that is an immigrant and refugee program. And honestly, we invested in them for more than 5 years. Our typical investment is a 3-year investment. But with Our Bridge, we invested in them very early on, and we helped them create their board and create some sustainability models and new revenue models, and to find their location and create their center. They were operating remotely. So there's just, our stories we go on for days. But thank you. That's a great question. Let's see.
We had a question of failure or lesson learned. I would like to share one if we.
Oh, please do.
So I won't name names. I was working with social venture partners and helping support a nonprofit, and they really needed some metrics to help track impact. I think I mentioned that earlier about how difficult that can be. So I have no business doing that. However, there are probably much smarter people that could do that, much better job within SVP and elsewhere. But I did a bunch of research, stole in the best sense of the word, and best practices, and cobbled together a pretty robust, what I thought to be a pretty robust, metrics kind of tracking system. It was just an elaborate spreadsheet, but nonetheless, it was pretty well thought out and got really good positive feedback. And then it went nowhere. And I think the lesson for me, which is something that I definitely apply in my my consulting practice, my innovation firm, is just, it wasn't that they needed the fix. They needed the outcome, right? They needed the ability to track metrics. But what they really needed was they needed the board to do the building of that metric system. So it wasn't good enough to just have something kind of handed and thrown over the fence to say, hey, here's your thing that you needed. See ya. Hope it works for you. They really needed to be invested in it and to have ownership and a stake in that game of how to measure their impact. So that was a big lesson for me. It's like, you can have the best intentions, but that's where having a community around you like SVP can really elevate and help kind of filter or even right size or kind of match you, if you will. It's almost like a matchmaker. Like, hey, you've got this skill, there's this need over here, and oh, by the way, we're going to provide you the context and guardrails and support you need to really be effective in delivering that support.
Thank you. This is I think we can do a quick round robin on this. Tell me your favorite, because there's a lot of nonprofit myths. One of the questions was what nonprofit myth needs to be shattered. I think we all might have a different answer to that, but I think there's no wrong answer. So why don't we do rapid fire on what nonprofit myth needs to be shattered? Patti, you want to start?
I'm trying to think of what, I guess a lot of things is that, everything's that their ideas, I don't know if it's a myth so much, is that everyone's idea is so unique, and that, that we need a proliferate of nonprofits out there. One of the things I love about social venture partners is we connect sometimes nonprofits together because they have a great idea, but guess what? It's being solved by someone else. So why don't we do this collaboratively? It's not really a myth so much as that's one of the things that through like C20 and social venture partners, we're oftentimes connecting organizations together because together, again, we can do much better. So just because you have a great idea doesn't mean someone's also already not tackling it. So check out Share Charlotte or check out Social Venture Partners. Chances are we know the nonprofits that exist in Charlotte. And if you have a great idea, someone else probably has that also. And probably another myth is that there's too many of nonprofits. But I think times are constantly changing, and the issues of yesterday aren't necessarily the issues of tomorrow. And we've got to look forward and make sure we're addressing what's coming up as well.
Awesome, thanks. Eric, what's your favorite myth to shatter?
And I just typed in Dan Plata in the chat. He was actually invited with us as social venture partners in partnership, I think, with the McGlowan Theater, one of the theaters here locally, who invited Dan Plata to come speak on this myth. But he basically busts the myth that high overhead is or overhead rates are the way to measure the effectiveness of an organization. He basically likens it to, if you want to be the only donor, keep the overhead low. However, if you want to scale your impact and invite others to contribute, then don't worry about overhead. In fact, to build on that, he does just a much more eloquent and passionate job. And he's got a great, I believe, TED Talk on this topic. You can Google and take a look at. But yeah, it's basically, we would never measure a private entity on overhead. In fact, you would say, invest every single dollar that gets you a return on that dollar. And then once it stops, okay, then you cease. But up until that point, you should be investing and helping get the word out and market. And so he really firmly busts that myth and again, does a great job of laying that out and encourage everyone to kind of look up Dan Plata.
Thank you for sharing that. I think the one thing that I've really learned and come to appreciate, I'm passionate about helping to demystify, is that coming from a corporate sector for 20 plus years, that nonprofits aren't businesses. They very much are businesses, and they very much have to operate, profitably. And by profitably, that means that you're able to cover your expenses, and the more revenue you can generate. And that doesn't just mean from contributors or donors. It's okay to have a fee for service model in the nonprofit sector to be self-generating with some revenue, because the more profit you have, the more you can reinvest that into your community and the more impact you can have. So I think for me, that's been the biggest myth. We're getting some questions about how if folks want to learn more. Our website, and we'll drop it in the chat, is socialventurepartners.org/Charlotte. And you can get a link to Seed 20, which is our innovation program. You can learn about our current portfolio of nonprofit investments that we've made for 2021 and the various programs we have. You can find lists of our partners, and Patti and Eric and I will each be at a table that's clearly marked when we go to networking. So we can't wait to meet you, and we tried to get to as many questions as we could, but we'd be very happy to talk more about it. I'm going to drop in the chat real quick the website and my contact info. You can always reach out to me directly as well. I would love the opportunity to get to know you either in the networking or after tonight's event. So thanks for being here. Thanks for an engaging Q&A. We look forward to continuing to serve the Charlotte community with you.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Kristin, for moderating. Thank you so much, Eric and Patti, for joining us. I know I walked away with a lot of more information that I, had previously coming into this. So I was really excited about this topic. I hope everyone watching also really enjoyed it. So virtual round of applause for today's panel. If you guys want to go ahead and turn off your cameras, I just have one more quick announcement. Oh, and mics too. Awesome. I have one more announcement to make before we dive into some networking. So this is our last public house in this usual format that we do. To simply explain why we want to transition or to pivot our public houses. If any of you are familiar with the series Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man, it is on YouTube. Emmanuel Acho is the host. If you are interested, I highly recommend checking it out. But he said this quote in one of the episodes: "Proximity breeds care and distance breeds fear." And I think just with even hearing that, I think it goes without saying how true and how evident it is in the society that we're living in, with the 2020 social unrest, the racial tensions, the recent attack on the Capitol that was a couple weeks ago. I think there isn't enough proximity between people that do not look alike, that don't come from the same socioeconomic status, that work in different business sectors, range in different ages, all of the intersectional factors that make us us. There isn't enough proximity between our differences. And I think because of that, there is a huge lack of knowledge and a huge lack of empathy for each other that may not be the same as us. So I think with transitioning these public houses, we really want to be able to host these conversations in order to start bridging those differences between the people that are not alike, whether that's your race, whether that's your culture, your gender, your age, your business sector. We really just want to start being able to bridge that gap between people so that we can start driving more empathy and we can start educating people on the differences of experiences between each individual in our community. Another thing, if you were at our last public house, Mike McCaff, shout out to him. He also is a huge inspiration for this transition. If you were at that public house, he was very transparent, very vulnerable, and very, very passionate about having these crucial conversations. Even though they make it a little uncomfortable, it's so crucial that we have these conversations in order to start driving the knowledge between people. And Mike's suggestion with having these conversations is that wherever you are, wherever your political view is, or wherever your ideologies or your morals lie, he just invites you to have the conversation of race, culture, and diversity with grace. So I've been working super hard with Mike McCaff, Lo Myrick. They are amazing individuals who are helping me put together this amazing event and this amazing discussion. So we have some great panelists, or not panelists, but speakers lined up, and some really great discussion points. I'm going to drop a survey in the chat. So if you can, please fill out the survey. It'll be helpful for me to know what you guys do like about our events and what we don't like, and then just give us a roundabout of the topics that would be important for us to discuss. Again, this is a very community-driven event. So if you have suggestions, or you want to be involved, or you're passionate about the subject matter at hand, please reach out to me. I always love to collaborate with different people and get new perspectives. And with all of these discussions and with having these conversations, I'm a woman of action. So when we have these conversations, I really hope that we can start implementing some of these action steps into our community in order to drive more diversity, drive transparency. If you were watching the inauguration today, Joe Biden said it's okay that we are different. It's okay that we have our disagreements, but we are going to need each other to get through this together. And I couldn't have thought of it better. I think we're all going to need each other. We're going to have a sense of community. So if you want to get involved, if you're interested in this transition, stay tuned for more information. So I will now break us out into the networking, just so we have some time to meet with everyone. Like I said, I'm going to drop the survey link in the chat. So please, please, please help me get in some of those results. But again, thank you so much, Kristin. Thank you so much, Eric and Patti, for joining us. Really happy to host this public house, and I look forward to hosting the rest of the public houses to come. So enjoy the networking. I will be around if anyone is having any technical issues, but we shall all go into breakout now.